right, welcome to the Sports Guys. Another episode. This time we're taking on another sport in our series. We've been bringing a lot of great sports to you guys in the history, rules, and popularity of the sport series. And as you know, we've brought to you rugby and football and basketball and pickleball and a whole bunch of great sports. And tonight we're going to be looking at golf. Golf's one of the great sports in the world, one of the highest ranked, most played, most popular. And we're going to look at the history, the rules, and the popularity of the game of golf. How you doing, Robbie?
I am doing great. Really excited to be back in the groove, back at work, and doing podcasts again. We're having fun, and it's been a really good summer so far.
It has been great. It really has. So think back when you're a young kid, you're growing up, and you first become aware of the game of golf. What are kind of some of your early memories? You know, watching Jack Nicklaus or Tiger or Phil Mickelson or some of the
Yeah,
early U.S. Opens and Masters and British Opens.
I think watching Jack Nicklaus was early, well before Tiger, and Tom Watson,
Mm-hmm.
and being at my grandfather's and him taking us out playing and just getting out there and dabbling, taking some lessons, driving balls. It was kind of that's where my memories begin.
Actually, you're right. The time with our grandfather, Grandtat, we called him. We used to go to the driving range with him. That was a lot of fun. Then we'd have ice cream after, and then we used to go to the par three course. And I remember early on, we couldn't even get it to the green, even on a par three course. And then later on, we got stronger. And I remember the first time I ever hit a 5-iron, which I thought was going to be plenty of club to get to the green. And instead, I absolutely crushed it. And it went across the street. And I remember he was absolutely mortified that we had gotten a little bit bigger and stronger. And all of a sudden, we were, a little stronger than we knew we were with our clubs. So that was a fun memory. But yeah, that was a lot of fun playing with him. And then I remember, the victories. I remember the defeats. I remember the Greg Norman year where he had the big lead in the second half of the Masters.
Yeah.
Found a way to choke it away. It was just absolutely just horrible to watch. I mean, nobody wants to see that.
It's funny you bring that up because I had a friend, Mike, whose father was the yacht captain for Greg Norman, and we were living in South Florida. And Mike was a really cool guy, and his dad would call him to the ship when they were going to do a big party, and they were headed towards Charleston to pick up Greg Norman and the winning party and everything. And they were loading up the ship with all kinds of supplies and everything you'd want for a massive celebration. And going into the final day, he had a pretty insurmountable lead, and he blew it. And they turned the ship around most of the way there and came all the way back.
Part of why I think that was so painful for everyone to watch is it was like watching a slow motion train wreck that you couldn't stop and that everybody could commiserate with because everyone knows how hard the game is.
The thing that was really interesting from my standpoint was I was in no way related to this situation, but it was my proximity to people who was really interesting. My good friend was going on that ship to go celebrate on Greg Norman's yacht, and just the crushing defeat was felt all the way down to somebody who didn't know any of those people, because I felt the crushing defeat for my friend Mike and his dad, and so that was interesting. It felt more painful than just watching it on TV and going, "Oh well, poor guy, he still made millions," and then turned it off.
That was even today. That was the most painful, crushing loss I've ever seen in golf. That was so freaking painful. Whether you're a Greg Norman fan or not.
Yeah.
Because all of us weekend warriors, we can imagine what it'd be like to have that kind of pressure. And you've got a 6-stroke lead with 9 holes to go. Yeah. You should put the field away, but instead you start missing easy 6-foot putts.
Especially the way you were playing. Like you were playing well. You were earning this victory, and all of a sudden it all goes south.
And then his first 3 holes of the back 9, he bogeys, and all of a sudden he goes from a 6-stroke lead to a 3-stroke lead. And then you're like, oh, wow.
And then
start
you
to
could feel
pucker
the
up.
pressure, and it was, yeah. But I mean,
And then,
isn't that how golf is? I mean, it's one
yeah,
of those.
no. And then he got a par, and everybody's like, okay, he's kind of ready to ship. He's still going to get this done. Gets a par, and then the next hole after that is one of the water holes, and he plunks it right in the water, and you're like, oh my! It was just so painful. So,
Yeah.
and then another one I remember was Jean Van der Velde when he had a huge lead at the British Open and blew it on the back nine, and it was just it was the same thing. It was like a train wreck watching happen slow. So I remember those. I remember all the really great moments, like the one you see behind me with Tiger when he won one of his U.S. Opens and he makes a huge putt on 17. It's about a 30-foot putt. And what a great moment for him. And, watch that career just take off. And he chased Nicklaus all the way to try to get the most majors. I've got another picture behind me there. You see who I think are the three greatest golfers ever. You got Tiger, you got Nicklaus, and you got Arnold Palmer. I know people are going to argue with me, but I think those are the three greatest ever. And there's just so many moments in sports you can remember, and a lot of them have to do with these major tournaments, especially on Sunday, back nine. Everybody's at home. They have to go to work the next day. They're sitting in their living room with their whole family. There's 4 holes left, and they're duking it out. And there's something special about it.
For sure.
Any other memories?
I think this is one sport where you can have some really interesting debates on who the best ever was and
Yeah.
what metric really matters. Is winning tournaments, is winning majors, is never coming in less than 4th, or like you can have pretty decent arguments, heated debates on this subject that are fun, and you'll never really know the answer, but it's pretty compelling.
It's true. I wonder what you think if you could try to compare today's crop of players, and there's a lot of great players. There's more depth and many more great players on the tour today than there were even 30 years ago. But I wonder if some of it has to do with conditioning and, these guys, they eat better, they train better, but they also have much better equipment. Like their drivers hit a lot longer.
Yeah.
Their putters are more consistent. I wonder if you could really compare, a Scotty Scheffler versus like year 2, year 3 of Tiger. Can you really compare those two, or is it just different eras?
It'd be hard. It'd be a lot like the WNBA. I mean, the NBA, or it would be like one of these different era arguments
It's hard to compare, right?
in other sports and track. Can you compare Jim Thorpe against
Mm-hmm.
Usain Bolt?
I mean, Rob, you have Bryson DeChambeau hitting at 345 on his drive.
I know.
Like it's just destroying these holes that used to be these guys were hitting 260. He's hitting it almost 100 yards past that. And so now he's got a pitching wedge into every single hole, and it's just completely changed every course, the way these guys are hitting now.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder how some of those guys like Nicklaus, like Tiger, like even early Jordan Spieth or Greg Norman or Arnold Palmer, how those guys would have done and what kind of records they would have put up if they had the kind of drivers they've got today.
Hard to say. It's really difficult. That's why it's an interesting conversation.
And even looking back at some of the history we're going to show tonight of some of the really, really old players back in the 1800s, 1700s. I mean, these guys were hitting with wooden sticks. They're, in some cases, were hitting wooden balls. They could barely get 100 yards on it.
But that's really the interesting part,
game.
I think, is if you look back to the history, we're going to talk about some of it. 15th century Scotland, this is an ancient sport, so there is a long number of years span where there have been a lot of great players. So you can really try to put together an argument for somebody in the 50s. They didn't have the equipment, so they might have been higher skill level, or you can make these arguments. And so it's interesting because there's so much material to work with, so long of a run for this sport, and so many different famous people playing it that have compelling stories. So that's an interesting thing. It's not like a 20 or 30-year-old sport.
There's an argument that you have a guy today who gets 8 under in a round. He shoots like what is that, like a 64 or something. And the course wasn't made for the type of equipment he has or the type of training he has. It was made for a guy who's hitting it with a wooden stick. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's a different game, but a lot of times the courses are still the same. So it's interesting. And we're talking about going to Scotland next year, and we're going to talk a lot about Scotland tonight. So I'm kind of excited when we do that trip next year. We've got to go to St. Andrews, we got to go to Edinburgh, and we got to go to some of the old original courses where these old kings that were Scottish kings used to play. And what an honor that's going to be to go to kind of where the original golf was played.
For sure.
It'll be a lot of fun. Let's go ahead and get into tonight's content on golf. Let's take a moment just to hear from our sponsor, and that is Jersey Mike's. They're a longtime sponsor of the program. We're really happy to have them back. And I'll just say that I go there all the time. I go there probably twice a week now, and I love the number 13, the original Italian. I love the number 17. I know, Robbie, that's your favorite sandwich. Tell me about your times at Jersey Mike's.
We were just in Myrtle Beach, and we had it multiple times and for dinner. So we just kept going back to Jersey Mike's. It was really awesome. I love the fresh food, great service. It's always a really fantastic meal. I'm always full. It's reasonably priced. I mean, I'd use the word cheap, but I mean, I might as well say cheap, but it's very affordable, great ingredients. They always get my sandwich right. And it's almost like a surprise every time how good it is.
It's true. It's true. And what's nice when Rob and I are together, we split either the 13 or the 17. So it's kind of like half a giant sandwich is perfect for both of us. So really works out really well.
Yeah, and then my family gets all kinds of other stuff, buffalo chicken and just so much. They have such good choices, fresh food. It's really good. It's a really good option.
So guys, go check out your local Jersey Mike's. Check out jerseymikes.com, where you can go to the Jersey Mike's app, or you can use Uber Eats, or you can use DoorDash or one of those services, but get yourself a sub tonight.
It's a sub above.
See you guys next time. All right, so this is Golf History, Rules, and Popularity of the Game. This is our episode 68. You can see up on the top left there, that's King James IV of Scotland. He was the king who made the game popular, and we'll get into all the details of him in a little bit. Just below him, of course, is a lot of people think the greatest player ever, and that's Tiger Woods. When he was at his peak for about 15 or so years, he was unbeatable. I mean, there were some U.S. Opens he was winning by 6, 7, 8 strokes. He just absolutely lapped the field when he was at his prime. Down below that, a couple pictures there in the bottom left and bottom right of what golf used to look like when these guys used to play it hundreds of years ago with their wood sticks and their wood balls. And they were trying to play this very precise game. Above that in the top right, you've got Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, and Tiger Woods. A lot of people think the 3 greatest ever. And then just above that, you got Jack Nicklaus holding up one of his many trophies. Still the number 1 majors holder. Tiger Woods is actually 1 behind him. So everyone thought that Tiger would get there, but he hasn't yet. We'll see if he's able to get to that level. Any other thoughts about some of these epic pictures here?
No, it's just an interesting smattering of sort of the history plus the greatest ever.
I wonder what it would have felt like to get one of those big wooden clubs and try to hit a wooden ball.
Yeah,
I mean, they're barely hitting it 100 yards.
Is it a heavy stick? I don't know.
I think so, yeah. I think so. Yeah, it's interesting, the evolution of how the clubs have come along. We'll get into that. So what's the history of golf itself? Golf originated in Scotland during the 15th century with early forms involving hitting pebbles and balls across natural terrain using sticks. The modern game as we know it developed from these origins with members of the St. Andrews Golf Club, which I just mentioned in Scotland, which was formed in 1754 as the oldest golf club in the world. And they played a crucial role in standardizing the rules and establishing the 18-hole format. And I tried to find some interesting material around why they chose 18 holes, and I really couldn't find anything. Couldn't find any reason why they chose 18 holes. So drop us a comment, guys, if you find anything or know anything about why they chose 18. The game was initially called golf, G-O-W-F, derived from the Scots word for hit or strike. And early courses were often natural terrain. They barely touched them. with players hitting pebbles or balls around dunes and other obstacles. King James IV, the guy picture I just showed you of Scotland, embraced the game, which helped to legitimize and popularize it among the nobility. So thoughts about this early history of golf going back to the early 1500s?
I mean, it's just fascinating to think about how long it's been around and how it got its origin.
You can imagine guys just standing around bored on a farm or something, and they take a stick and just kind of hit a pebble or something and
Yeah, it was a
whack it
social
across the
game.
thing. And then all of a sudden the other guy hits it with his stick, and then all of a sudden you got a game, right?
Yeah.
That's how hockey or lacrosse or any of these sports were formed. So you can kind of imagine how golf formed. So really interesting history there. Some more history behind King James IV himself. They call him the first golfer. He's known for being the first royal golfer, and he was a man of many talents. He actually inherited the Scottish throne at the age of 15 and unified the outlying areas of his kingdom by force of arms. So he's actually kind of a brutal leader. He practiced dentistry as well, which I found very interesting. And he founded the Royal College of Surgeons in Scotland, years ahead of that in England. And he also introduced compulsory education, requiring large landowners to educate their sons by sending them to one of the universities, either St. Andrews, Glasgow, or Aberdeen. So he really believed in education. Most of his legacy, though, and what he's known for the most, is that in 1502, he lifted the ban on golf. He lifted the ban on golf, which his predecessors had imposed to encourage archery practice. It's really interesting that all of his predecessors were trying to kind of suppress golf and not let it be popular because they wanted them to continue to get ready for war through archery or other practice. So he lifted that ban and, of course, started playing it, and it became very popular. He was considered a pivotal figure in the early history of golf, helping to popularize it in Scotland, and it became a real craze. He purchased the first golf clubs from a bow maker in Perth in 1502, marking the first documented purchase of golf equipment. King James IV traveled extensively around Scotland, and records show him playing golf at various locations, including Falkland Palace and Stirling Castle. And you can see a great picture there, one of the great Scottish courses that goes back to the early 1700s, and that's at Perth North. Other thoughts about King James and his role in the development of golf?
That's a pretty interesting historical development of, how he evolved things while he had all these things to worry about, obviously projecting war. And
But he obviously enjoyed playing it and didn't want it banned because he
yeah,
liked it.
it was probably a good escape for him, I would imagine.
Right. You think that was a smart thing for his predecessor to say, essentially, you can't do this fun game. We want you practicing on the archery range?
No.
They basically banned the game.
Yeah, I think that was a mistake.
It's interesting because in our bocce episode, if you guys remember, we talked a lot about the early development of the game, and there was times where some of the Roman and other legions had to ban the game of bocce. They were playing it so much that they weren't taking their war preparation seriously. So it sounds a lot like that. Basically, these guys were playing so much bocce, you had to suppress it. So pretty cool that he finally lifted the ban on golf.
Mm-hmm.
So you excited about that Scotland trip?
Very, very.
Needs to
I'm
be great.
excited on many levels. Having the boys going. What we found out recently is that we have a tremendous amount of family from there. So I guess
Mhm.
we hail from 12 clans there. We're going to try and find some of the origins of our
Mhm.
family. I think Scotland's a fascinating country in general. There's the whole golf element that they created this amazing game. So yeah, I'm
And
very excited about
it's
Scotland.
absolutely beautiful. I have a colleague who just came back from Scotland for 2 weeks, and she was showing us the pictures, and it is gorgeous. It is
Yeah, I think the
absolutely
boys are
beautiful.
going to love the castles, and it's just going to be cool.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, same.
So some other old games that are kind of like golf and kind of inspired golf. Several sports share similarities with golf. focusing on precision, targeting, and strategic approach to movement and placement. So games like croquet, bocce ball, cricket, lawn bowling are examples of precision games that are very similar to golf. All of them are older than golf as well. So that was kind of bringing the whole concept of target games to the forefront. Other target sports like archery or darts, shooting sports also involve aiming at a target, requiring focus and accuracy. So you can see some great pictures here of croquet and bocce and lawn bowling and archery and some other things. So any thoughts about some of these old games like golf that might have inspired, whether it's croquet or bocce or cricket or?
I mean, it's pretty cool how the creativity came into play here, and you got to sort of mix different concepts. I mean, I enjoy all those croquet's fun. Bocce's amazing. Grew up playing that. Lawn bowling,
We never really played cricket, but it's a lot like baseball. We played some baseball and some softball.
Never really played cricket. Yeah, darts for sure.
Archery
kind of reminds me of darts. Same idea.
Is there ever any ending to the creativity of human beings to come up with some type of game with a ball?
No, I mean this is exactly why we do our crazy sports episodes, is because people who are goat herders in some Kazakh, whatever, they come up with a cool way to make the things they have into a sport. It's so cool. I love it.
It is. It really is. If you guys haven't checked out our strange but cool sports episodes, do check them out. I'll drop them in the description.
We've done 4 now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'll drop them
check
in
them
the description down below. So how did golf get its name? Well, as we mentioned earlier, one of the words that they used was golf, or G-O-W-F. The word golf is believed to be derived from the Dutch word, which was kolf or kolf, which simply means club. The term was used in the Netherlands for a variety of bat and ball games, and it's thought to have been introduced to Scotland through trade and interaction with Dutch sailors. In the Scottish dialect, the term evolved into golf or golf, which meant strike, eventually becoming golf. And you can see some other variations there over the centuries. Golf and goif and all these different ways to say it. So pretty funny to think of how the evolution of the word finally came to G-O-L-F.
Yeah, and it all makes sense. Everything's evolving, so you can see kind of what their thought process was early on.
And all those dialects, Scottish, Irish, Gaelic, all the Old English, all of them were always changing all the time. So not surprising that this word would change either. This was a funny little tombstone I found here on William Dolman. This is how important the sport is, Robbie, in the country of Scotland. He basically wanted nothing on his tombstone except that he was a great golfer, essentially. That was the main thing he was the most important and most proud of.
Hey, if you love it, it gets in your blood.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a fantastic golfer. So what are the rules of golf? So the first set here is around playing the ball. You have to play it as it lies. And of course, that means you can't touch it and make the lie better. And that, of course, that's a big part of golf, is that sometimes it rolls into a divot, or sometimes it rolls onto the cart path or whatever. And you have to really kind of play it from where it comes to rest, which is a big part of the game. No improving your lie. Teeing off on the first shot of each hole, players tee off in sequence, starting with the player with the lowest score in the previous hole. So that's another interesting thing, is if you do the best score on the last hole, then you get to tee off first on the next hole.
Yeah, you kind of win the hole, and that allows you to start next time. That's pretty cool.
Exactly, yeah. And then on subsequent shots later in the round, the player furthest from the hole plays the next shot. So obviously, if you're further away, you're going to be playing your shot several times until you catch up. Then you got your out of bounds rule. Balls hit out of bounds are penalized 1 stroke, and the player must replay the shot from the original spot. And if the ball is lost, the player incurs a 1-stroke penalty and must return to the spot of the previous stroke and play another ball. So those are all the playing the ball rules. Hazards, you got bunkers. Players cannot ground their club right behind the ball or touch the sand with their club before the swing. That's a big deal there. Basically, it's really hard to do practice swings when you're in a bunker.
Yeah.
So it makes it really challenging. You have to just kind of mentally take a hack at it and then actually take the real hack. The water hazard, players can take a penalty stroke and drop the ball within 2 club lengths, so the point where the ball entered the water. And then if the ball is unplayable, and the player can then take a 1-stroke penalty and drop the ball 2 club lengths away from the unplayable spot. In terms of etiquette, you got pace of play. Players should maintain a reasonable pace of play. That's a big deal, especially for weekend warriors who are busy. They'll get on you if you play too slow. You got safety. Players should always be mindful of other golfers and avoid swinging when others are in range. And then you got your repairing the damage. Players need to repair divots and ball marks. That's just kind of a etiquette thing that you're supposed to do as a golfer. Any comments on these 3 sets? A lot of these come out of the original rules, and they really haven't changed much. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think there hasn't been a huge evolution in rules, and that's one of the beauties of the game. It feels like it's old school, you know? It feels like baseball that refused to change, and now baseball's made a bunch of changes, and golf still hasn't. You know, it's like golf's never gonna change from having to walk yourself. A lot of these rules, they fit in that sort of this is how it is mindset, you know?
Yeah, I think the old golfers from Scotland in the 1700s would be horrified with a golf cart. They would be like,
Yeah.
"What is that? Why do you have that? We're supposed to get exercise." So, but yeah, even in the major tournaments today, they have to walk. There's no using golf carts. So, kind of cool they've stayed with that rule. Some other rules here under scoring. The most common format is stroke play, where the total number of strokes taken to complete the round is counted. Of course, in a major tournament, you play 4 rounds, and it's the combination of all 4 rounds scores. You can also play match play, where players compete hole by hole, and the winner of each hole being the one with the fewest strokes. So match play is an interesting, and they play that in things like the Ryder Cup and other match play type tournaments. They're pretty cool to watch. And then each hole has a par score representing the expected number of strokes for a skilled player. Great picture there of a real old school. That's from 1890. These guys playing over in Scotland.
That's so cool. Yeah.
And then you see there a picture of the original rules of golf. So really cool to see what that book would have looked like. This actually was printed in 1868. So really old book there. And then number 5 set of rules here, other important rules, maximum of 14 clubs in your bag. So that's a really important rule, especially if you're in a tournament. You also have local rules. Golf courses can have specialized local rules that they can enforce on players. And then you can also have committees develop rules that, they impose on you, especially if they're the tournament committee. Any other thoughts on these rules here?
No, it just kind of speaks back to what I was saying, that it feels like the evolution in golf is so slow and deliberate, and they only want to change when they have to, kind of thing. And that's kind of a cool thing about golf, is it stayed really true to its original rules.
Reminds me of the situation that happened to John Daly. This is after he won the PGAs, but a year or two later. And he got into round 3 of the U.S. Open. He was actually doing pretty well. I think he was in 3rd or 4th on the leaderboard. And somebody called him that he had 16 clubs in his bag. Somebody called him on it. And the official came over and found that it was true. He did have 16 clubs in his bag. He ended up getting disqualified. So if you're in a major tournament, you got to count your clubs. You can't make that mistake. So I really look at the caddy, actually, is the one who should make
the caddy's walking around with that bag. He should know.
There's no way you should get disqualified on day 3 of the U.S. Open. That just shouldn't happen. So evolution of the ball in golf. This is interesting. The first set of balls were wooden golf balls, by all accounts. This was in the 14th and 15th century, and they were used in links golf and in Scotland. So really interesting what that would have felt like to hit a wooden ball. The next evolution after that was from 1486 to 1618. The Scottish received and used hairy golf balls imported from Netherlands. They call them hairy because they were hand-sewn round leather balls filled with cow's hair or straw in the middle. So this is before they had rubber. In 1554, the hairy golf ball was being produced in Scotland, And they actually introduced it all over the country, and it ended up going to England as well. The balls continued to be used even after the introduction of the featherine golf ball in 1618 because they were less expensive. So you can see this development. Hairy golf balls they found were better than wooden and were softer, and you could get a better chip on them. So then you had the next evolution happen in 1618. It was called the featherine golf ball. You see what they look like there to the right. And they were similar to the hairy golf balls, but they had goose or chicken feathers on the inside packed in. And since the featherine golf ball was filled with feathers, it was able to be stuffed more full than the hairy, making it harder and able to fly further, so they could get more distance on it. To make a featherine, the feathers in leather would be shaped while wet. And upon drying, the leather shrank and the feathers expanded, creating the desired hardness for the ball. Once dried, the featherine would be painted and the ball marker would be added to mark the ball. So isn't it interesting that they were already in 1618 trying to find ways to make the ball fly further?
Yeah.
Which makes sense. You're always trying to improve your equipment, right?
Of course.
Yeah. Still hitting with wood.
That's an area where there's been a lot of evolution is the equipment.
Can you imagine what they would think of the current ball today and how high tech it is? Yeah. Pretty cool. So the next evolution was the gutta golf balls. You can see what they look like there. This was golf's first professional. Alan Robertson was considered the premier ball and club maker of his time in the 1800s. And in 1835, at age 14, Tom Morris began working under Robertson at St. Andrews, and the two worked together making the feathery golf balls until advent of the gutty golf ball. Robertson didn't like the gutty and saw it as a threat to his business. Morris saw the gutty ball as the future of the game because it actually flew even further than the feathery. So the two parted ways after Robertson fired Morris, and then Morris went on to open his own shop and became very successful with these gutty balls that could fly even further than the feathery balls. And then the final big evolution in golf balls was in 1898 when the rubber core golf balls came out. We're still using rubber core today. Coburn Haskell made a discovery while awaiting Bertram work of the B.F. Goodrich Company. Of course, that's a tire company. When he wound rubber thread into a ball and bounced it, Haskell discovered it had a lot of bounce, and upon Bertram's work suggestion, put a cover on it. The rubber Haskell golf ball was born. The process of early making the ball Haskell involved a liquid-filled or solid round core, which was wound with a layer of rubber thread to create a larger round inner core, which was then covered by the thin outer shell. So these Haskell golf balls just absolutely took off. And of course, we've been evolving them ever since. So what are your thoughts about this just random way that he found out about rubber bouncing?
I think it's pretty amazing. And they got it right. I mean, the amount of distance that they can evolve towards through these developments is pretty cool.
I mean, they were hitting wood golf balls 90 yards, right?
Yeah.
And now they're hitting 345.
Right. That's a big difference.
Yeah. Completely different game. So some of the evolution of the early clubs in golf, some of the early clubs pre-1800s, primarily made of wood, often with leather or metal strips on the club face. It's really interesting to give it a different spin or be able to control it some. It used persimmon wood around 1900. Then they had blacksmith-made irons starting in around 1750, and hickory shafts were the preferred wood because they were flexible and they were durable. So they gave you both durability, but also a little bit of flexibility so you could get some bounce on it. So that's the early golf clubs, kind of pre-1800s. Then in the 1800s to 1970s, you had this age of metal that came in. You had mass-produced irons. You see some of them there on the top right. You had steel shafts come in, which really changed the distance on a lot of the golf clubs at that time. You had grooves on the club faces come in 1908, and then you had aluminum shafts in the 1960s, which changed most of the golf clubs in your bag. So thoughts about some of these advancements?
Just so you could see how the clubs were getting stronger and lighter and really going to make a big impact on club swing.
And more control. You had the grooves on the faces.
Control, little grooves.
You could
Get
spin
the
it.
ball spinning properly.
Mhm. Yeah, you can see the evolution really kind of pairs with the way the game is played more and more precisely over time.
Yeah.
So, in terms of the clubs, the modern clubs that we use today, 1980s to present, you got metal woods that replaced the wood woods, and they hit a lot further, as we talked about. They have larger club heads, they have bigger sweet spots, they have more forgiveness, they have greater distance. You also have the titanium drivers that came in the 1990s. They're really super light. They have strong properties, and they have much larger club heads. So you have this whole concept of the moment of inertia, or MOI, is much higher. So it's almost impossible to miss now. The sweet spot's so big. Then you have adjustable hostels, which allows adjustable drivers based on what you want to do for comfort, lie, or control, spinability. You have multi-material construction with carbon fiber now coming in, and then you have other high-tech fibers that have been brought in to the process. So the engineering has just accelerated and accelerated and accelerated. So thoughts about where we are today, where we're going with this? I mean, are we going to have 500-yard drives one day? I think so.
Probably, yeah. I think it's definitely possible. It's not going to take too much more of a quantum leap from where we are either.
You're going to get a guy like DeChambeau who's going to hit 500 yards probably in like 10 years. We're not talking
Yeah,
like that far out
probably right.
because he hits it so far already.
They'll
And you give
find
him,
one more surface they can put down that gives like a little more power.
they said they're working on a little bit more flexibility in the shaft, which would give it a little bit more of that recoil, and then you get another
Yeah,
100 yards out of it. So
maybe.
I don't know. Are the courses going to have to change? I mean, they're going to have to make a 400-yard hole into a 700-yard hole just to make it challenging, right?
Maybe. Or you just keep having lower and lower scores.
Or you're going
It's
to
like
have
it's like in the NBA. Are they going to raise the rim?
probably not.
I don't see a big change for that
So
anytime on the horizon.
you're going to have Bryson DeChambeau driving a par five. He's going to drive the green. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? It's amazing what it's
yeah,
going
it
to do
is.
to the game. You're not going to have many approach shots, really. Drop us a comment, guys. What do you think of where this equipment is going and where you think the game is going in terms of the big players? Be interested to hear what you guys think. So some classic golf photos. What a great picture there on the top left. Bunch of kids playing the game. And you can see some of these fantastic pictures from back in the day. Family Golf in 1900. Cypress Point at 16th tee. That's in 1898. You can look at the 1933 American Ryder Cup team. Alex Ross in 1907. He was one of the real famous first American professionals. You got caddies fishing the ball out of the water. What a great picture that is. And then you have caddies also pulling weeds. So back then they didn't really have all these professional mowers and things that we have now. So yeah, the caddies had to actually pull the weeds. And then you see a crowd crossing the bridge, the 18th at Westward Ho. So you see what the crowds would have looked like back then during a professional tournament in the 1920s. And then same thing, what a golf club would have looked like back then. So thoughts about some of these ancient golf photos?
Just interesting how the greenskeeping was so different, and it was a
Isn't it
family affair.
funny how caddies were so important back then too? I mean, they were
Yeah,
a really important part of the game. You know, you didn't
yeah.
play
You
without a
could see
caddy.
families were playing, so that was cool, and
Hmm.
I'm sure it was a wealthy game,
And they're
But
all putting, you know.
yeah, and you can see up top there the moms playing.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool.
Some other pictures here. The 1892 British Open champion, Harold Hilton. What a cool picture that is. Henry Picard from 1935. That's what the irons would have looked like back then. You got John McDermott, was a real famous player around the turn of the century. James Bright and Johnny Rowe. A colorized Bobby Jones at the 1936 Masters. He basically put the Masters on the map. He was the one who really popularized the Masters and made it the best tournament in the world. He was one of the really famous, started as an amateur and actually won the Masters twice as an amateur and then went professional.
He helped design Augusta.
You did.
And
You
he
did.
won 42% of his U.S. and British amateurs and opens, which is
That's right.
unbelievable because Jack Nicklaus only won 10% of his.
Right. So when I say that I think those three players I mentioned are the best, the people that are real true golf homers and traditionalists say, "What about Bobby Jones?" They'll say it
Yeah.
every time,
He won
and
42% of his tournaments.
it's kind of hard to argue with that he should be
Yeah.
in. And another guy to talk about there in the bottom is Ben Hogan. He'd be another guy you'd have to at least consider.
Yeah.
So really funny there. They said there was a period there in Scottish golf where they had their dogs carry their bags for them, which I think is really funny. And you can see
Yeah,
they play.
the area Ben Hogan really influenced was swing theory. He really
Mhm.
changed the way that the science of the swing. He modernized the swing,
True.
and he was known for his striking skills,
Incredible player.
his driving. Yeah,
What do you think about the guys with their dog carrying their bag and also their kilts,
it's cool.
playing golf in kilts?
Yeah, it's cool.
I love it. So a great picture there of Arnold Palmer when he was really young. A couple different shots there on the top. He was a really handsome guy, wasn't he? You got Walter Hagen, another great player in 1932, Sam Snead, Phil Mickelson, his rookie year in 2001. He had that great lefty. Nobody really ever seen a lefty this good before. Justin Rose, Larry Mize, Rory McIlroy when he was a real youngster in Valhalla. That was his
Mhm.
first tournament win. And of course, he's playing at a really high level still. Jordan Spieth has always been one of my favorite players. He's from Texas. That was his win at the British Open, his first win in a major. Ricky Fowler at the PGA. Colin Montgomery, Padraig Harrington, two British players. Craig Stadler. He was kind of like the pre-John Daly, the guy who was always out of shape, always smoking a cigar, always drinking a beer, and yet he was just a great player. He just was always competing. You had Bernard Langer, came out of Germany. Chris DeMarco, Sergio Garcia, this young upstart in 2002 from Spain, had a really great career. Curtis Strange and Ernie Els from South Africa. Any of these guys bringing any memories back for you?
Oh yeah, almost pretty much all of them.
Yeah,
Craig Stadler, him and Curtis Strange played with Gil.
they did. You're
Yeah,
right.
they did.
He played with several really important.
My uncle played in Alexandria, and Stadler was one of the guys that he played with in his league.
Mhm. Yeah, he said both of these guys
Curtis
were
Strange.
really good players.
Yeah.
You can imagine. So we got Dustin Johnson. I think he's been one of the best players the last 10 years. Really fabulous player. You got Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus. What a great picture of the two of them together at the 1973 Bing Crosby tournament, which was real big back then when Bing was alive. Ben Crenshaw is another guy you could put on that list. Kind of a top 10 type of guy. Chichi Rodriguez. How much fun was he?
He
Every
was
time
he had so much flair.
he was hilarious. Every time he hit a putt, he would use his putter
He
as
would do
kind of like
Zorro.
a sword. Yeah, do the Zorro thing. He was kind of like the pre getting too serious with it. He really was always having fun on the course.
Yeah.
Al Geiberger, 1964, he kind of dominated the 60s. Bubba Watson with his pink driver. He had a couple of huge wins. He won the Masters twice.
Mm-hmm.
And he always talked about how it just felt like a dream for him. He was a guy who was just a fraternity guy at University of Georgia. He used to go out and play golf with his friends at the Georgia golf course. And all of a sudden somehow found himself on the PGA Tour and won a couple of tournaments. And he still couldn't believe it. So you got Byron Nelson there. And then you have a couple of fantastic women players. Carol Mann in the
Mm-hmm.
60s was really great. Nancy Lopez, she really dominated all through the 70s. And then
Yeah,
Annika Sorenstam, maybe the best ever, in my opinion.
probably.
Most solid woman, had a 20-year career and just racked up a lot of titles. So it's
She
really
was
great,
very dominant.
really great women players there. Fred Couples was a lot of fun to watch. Fred Funk. He won a couple tournaments. He felt like that kind of normal guy who found himself on the tour and couldn't believe he was winning. He was actually a golf pro in Maryland and got discovered and got put onto the tour and ended up winning some tournaments. You got Gary Player, a great South African player, Payne Stewart, who you and I were just talking about, and that
Yeah.
fantastic moment he had at Pinehurst where he won the U.S. Open and he had that big fist pump.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite memories in golf. Lee Trevino was another really fun, colorful guy.
Tremendous.
He used to have so much fun on the course.
Yeah, I was reading about Lee Trevino. He had an accident happen. I didn't even know about this, but a lightning struck him in 1975
Is that right?
on the course. Yeah,
Huh.
and it led to him have severe leg and back injuries, and he had multiple surgeries. And
Mhm.
he won 8 tournaments after his accident, but it really
Wow.
damaged his ability to compete and have stamina, and he had to fight his way back from all these injuries from this lightning strike.
Wow.
I didn't know
That's
that until I
amazing.
read about it.
What a story.
Lee Trevino, yeah.
Yeah. So you got some other great pictures here. Greg Norman, we mentioned that tragic collapse he had, but he had a lot of great moments in his career,
He was so good.
a lot of big wins. And he had such a great career that he, of course, started this amazing apparel line that's still really big today, which has the little shark logo on it. And you'll see about a third of the golfers out there wearing his shark logo. And of course, he also helped to start the new Live Golf Tour, which is a competitor to the PGA. Hal Sutton, Gary Player, another picture of him there with Jack Nicklaus at the Thunderbird Classic. A really young, this was funny, Justin Leonard, who was a senior at the University of Texas, part of the Texas Longhorns team, and actually won the national championship that year. And of course, went on to a really great pro career as well. And then the first ever really great African American player. This was 1969, Lee Elder. And a lot of people talk about he really doesn't get the notoriety he should. He was a really great golfer. Lee Elder. There's Jack Nicklaus in 1961 as the USGA Amateur Championship. So he, very similar to some of the guys preceding him, started as an amateur, but still was racking up the trophies. And you can see some other fantastic shots of him there on the top. So he had really kind of that classic smile. He was the most endorsed guy in sports for a while in the 70s. He was on the Wheaties boxes. He was in every commercial. He really was incredibly popular. And then, of course, you see a picture of them to the right of Nicklaus with his young protege, Mr. Tiger Woods. And you can see another picture of Woods there on the bottom left at St. Andrews, that classic course in Scotland. We mentioned John Daly, that tournament he won in 1991 at the PGA. Johnny Miller, a great picture of Earl and Tiger Woods practicing in 1992. This is right when he was about to go pro. What a great picture there of him with his dad. And then again, a picture there of Woods and Nicklaus, the great. What do you think about some of these photos?
They're awesome. They're awesome, Matt. Clearly, this is some of the best players that have ever lived.
You know, when Tiger won his first Masters, Jack Nicklaus said, "I think he's going to break my majors record." He actually predicted it. This was way before.
It was incredible. I watched Tiger while he was in college at Stanford, and very few times did I actually sit and watch the national championship in college. But I watched that because Tiger was this known commodity of this exciting guy who did the fist pump, and he drilled this putt to win. It was so exciting, and it propelled him into the pros,
What's
where
amazing is
he already had this mystique about him that was so clear that he just took it into the pros with him, and he kept that intimidation.
what's amazing is he appeared at 3 years old with his father on TV on one of the late night programs and was showing everybody his putting and his swing at that time. He was 3. So it was almost like he was destined for this type of greatness. And he really was basically a golfer from 3 years old on up. So, yeah, it was been really fun to take the entire ride with Tiger.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people think is the greatest player ever.
Yeah, it's really difficult to I think most of the things in my research was most people feel Jack Nicklaus was the best ever, and Tiger was always chasing him and never quite caught him, but in most categories got really, really close.
Mm-hmm.
Nicklaus pretty much owns him in every category by a little bit,
If
so
Tiger didn't have the accident in the car and he didn't have the back problems and some of the things that came along, I really
he,
wonder
he
how
probably
much
would have caught him.
he would have caught him, because he's
He
only one
probably would
away
have
now.
caught
Yeah.
him. Yeah,
He really had his career shortened in a lot of ways by injury. So,
by poor choices and by life dramas that he sort of self-imposed,
and back
family issues,
surgeries. I mean, how many times
and
did he
then
swing that golf club?
injuries. Yeah. Yep.
So who
He
knows
got
what he
really
would have.
distracted because of personal issues, and then
Mm-hmm.
he started having injuries, and it's kind of sad, but he
It is.
never he never quite regained that thing, but he did win the Masters again in 2019, which was
Mhm.
exciting.
It was.
But yeah, he started out like a ball of fire, and he should have surpassed Nicklaus, but I think life got in the way a little bit, and he just kind of lost steam right before he caught Nicklaus.
I personally believe, this is just me, if you put the two of them up head to head against each other for 10 years, both in their prime, that Woods would have come out on top. I think he was a better player
I'm
in
just
his
not
in his
sure.
prime. In his prime.
I'm not sure. I
But,
watched some incredible golf by Jack Nicklaus. I remember on the senior tour, this one video of him sort of verbally sparring with this one guy who was complaining about how he didn't have a good lie, and he didn't
mhm.
know if he should chip on or putt on. And Nicholas said, just putt on. And the guy goes, that's impossible. He says, not impossible. And the guy said, it is impossible. And Nicholas said, I'll show you. And he walks up and he puts the ball down right next to him and he drills it. And it's like this 60-foot putt. I mean, it was uphill. It was insane. And Nicholas drained it and nobody could believe it. The whole gallery went crazy. And he said, that's how you do it. And he walked off. It was the most incredible moment in golf.
He was unbelievable. There's
He
just
was
no question about it.
unbelievable. And
Don't you
Tiger
feel
had
like
that same thing where you couldn't believe what you're watching. Nicholas had it. Unfortunately, we didn't get to watch Nicholas our whole life. So
mhm.
in our bias, we have the recency bias of Tiger, where we got to see the whole arc of his career. Whereas Nicholas, we saw it about halfway through the 70s, 80s.
But do you agree these guys are 1-2, whether it's
Yeah.
one or the other? Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
think they're one. I think Nicholas is one and Tiger's 1A.
but don't you think this is kind of like LeBron and Michael? I mean, it depends on
No,
what
I
generation
think
you're
that's
from.
a wider gap. I think LeBron
Mhm,
and Michael are a wider gap, but that's a separate
mhm,
discussion. But I
mhm,
think this one is you can make the case that Tiger, but I think most metrics have Nicholas just slightly ahead of Tiger.
mhm. Well, guys, drop us a comment. We want to hear from you. Who was the greatest ever? Was it Nicklaus or was it Tiger Woods? Let us know what you
I
think.
will say that it certainly looked like Tiger at a young age was arcing to beat him pretty badly, like
Mhm.
to catch him and to surpass him fairly easily. And he just never quite got there. But that's not important. What's important is they both changed the game. They both made people watch. They drew people in that were casual or didn't have any golf interest whatsoever. And they both did an amazing job as ambassadors of the sport at the time.
They both
And
exploded the game. They both exploded
yeah,
the game on TV.
there was nobody more exciting at their respective times of playing than those two guys.
Whenever Tiger would play, the viewership was up by like 100%. And then when he
The,
didn't play, it would fall off.
the exciting part about Tiger was not only was he modern, but he was a minority and
Mhm,
he was extremely powerful and intimidating. So
mhm. It
he
was.
came along when, Mike Tyson was still going and there were intimidating athletes
And
in
I don't know
different
if you remember
sports.
this, but when he was at his prime, all the other athletes in all the other sports were in awe of Tiger. Like
Yeah.
Michael Jordan was in awe of Tiger.
Yeah.
Like, people don't remember that, but, like, that's how dominant he was for a while. People were in
Yeah.
awe of this guy. But he wasn't just a golfer, he was an athlete. He was an incredible
Yeah.
kid.
He was starting to rival Michael Jordan as the #1 athlete in the entire world.
And he was on every commercial, on every Wheaties box. He was kind of,
Yeah.
for a while there, was just the most endorsable athlete in the world.
Yeah.
So, looking at some other pictures here, great close-up there of Bob Hope. He was one of the great celebrities who loved the game of golf, was very good at golf. Some other celebrities, Dean Martin and Jerry McGee, Doug Sanders, Clint Eastwood. What a great picture of Clint. He loved to play the game, was one of the great ambassadors as a celebrity. Some other celebrities here, Michael Jordan was a fantastic golfer. He's got a stogie in his mouth right there. So a really great picture there. You have some other really hilarious pictures here. You got, of course, the guy who was from Tin Cup, Mr. Kevin Costner. So what did you think of that movie?
Great movie. I was just
Mm,
thinking about how many amazing movies revolved around golf. There were a
a lot.
lot. There were a lot of good movies.
Was
Very
Tin Cup the
compelling.
greatest?
I think one of the reasons why golf's a very good movie to have, a sport to have in movies, is there's a lot of drama. There's tremendous tension on each stroke, and there's a lot
Mhm.
of drama. It makes for a good dramatic tale.
That's right. And then, of course, Caddyshack,
Yeah, funny.
Happy Gilmore. Happy Gilmore 2 is coming out, by the way, like 25
Yeah, it
years
is.
later. Yeah, I thought that was really funny. Some great athletes on the bottom there. You got Jerry Rice is a really fantastic golfer. Tony Romo actually won the Pro-Am 3 times.
Yeah,
He's probably a better golfer than quarterback. I don't know about that, but anyway. Tom
no, but
Brady's a really great golfer. Tom Brady's he's basically a scratch golfer. And then Steph Curry apparently is the best golfer in the NBA right now of all the current players. He's really, really solid. The other thoughts about some of these celebrities you see here?
I mean, it's a great sport to go out and play. Celebrities, it's a good way to get rid of some tension. Um, I mean, it's not surprising that celebrities are drawn to it.
What did you think of that character that he played in, in that great golf movie with the gopher?
Yeah,
Remember that
yeah.
character?
Caddyshack. Yeah,
Yeah, Caddyshack.
yeah. He
He's
was
like,
great.
and he would use this little accent, there's 80,000 people watching.
And I'm with the Dalai Lama,
It's a
and
Dalai
the
Lama.
Lama doesn't give me a tip, and I say, "Hey, Lama, how about a little something for the effort?"
And he was always chasing the gopher,
Yeah.
and then he
And
was
he said,
hitting.
I won't give you any money, but when you're on your deathbed, you will have eternal peace."
He was
So I
hitting
got
the
that going
flowers.
for me.
He was hitting the flowers, instead of
Yeah.
the golf ball. What's funny is he did that movie, and then he just took up the game of golf and became really good at it. He plays in the Pro-Am, and he's really, it's kind of like a 3 or 4 over, but really solid golfer. So
Hmm.
a lot of fun.
Well, that movie was patterned after Bill Murray's older brother, Brian Doyle Murray.
That's right.
He was a caddy, and they used all the stories from him, to add into to make Caddyshack funnier.
Yeah, didn't Bill Murray have a lot to do with the production of that film as
Yeah,
well?
well,
And not
his
only did he
brother
play
did.
the funniest
Brian
character,
Doyle
you
Murray did, actually.
remember what the name of his character was? I don't. And it was funny.
Uh, I thought about it the other day and I knew it, but I can't think of it off the top of my
One of the
head.
funniest roles I've ever seen him in, Bill Murray.
Yeah. And it was cool to see him and Chevy Chase on the screen together because
For sure.
they had
Yeah.
they had a huge rivalry prior to this.
Chevy played kind of like the straight man, but he was still funny. But Bill Murray, obviously
Yeah,
the,
the
the
lunatic.
comic. Yeah. So other great photos here. These
Well,
are more
but
kind of
what's interesting about that movie, real quick, is they weren't supposed to have much scenery at all together, and they
right.
wrote that in because it was so obvious that these were the two geniuses, and they had to kind of
Total
see
genius.
what they could come up with.
Right. That's right. So these are kind of the current best players that we have in our current batch of the system in 2025. We got Jason Day, Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy is still right there. You see the rankings there: Scheffler, McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, Justin Thomas, who's right at the top there holding the cup. You got Russell Henley, who's in the red in the bottom there holding the cup.
Mm.
You got Morikawa. You got Keegan Bradley. Of course, you got John Rahm there on the left. What are your thoughts about this current batch of players and how they compare to kind of maybe the
I
last
think
20,
you
30
touched
years?
on it earlier. The amount of physical power that they bring, the physicality, the athleticism is kind of unmatched in golf's history. I think they certainly are using their skills along with the better equipment to maximize. I mean, 345-yard drives, that's insane.
But
Not
doesn't it
long
feel like
ago.
it's a little deeper? I mean, you got Bryson DeChambeau as the 15th best player in the world. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it just feels a
Yeah,
little deeper. Victor
it's like
Hovland.
there's no Tiger, but there's 15 Tigers. You know, there's 30 people that can win a tournament. Whereas
Yeah,
in the past it was Nicklaus or Tiger, or it was Nicklaus or Palmer.
it's
You
kind of
know,
more exciting because you have more guys who have a chance.
yeah, it is
Tommy
cool to
Fleetwood.
yeah. These young
Yeah.
guys are coming up. They're getting good sponsorships, so they're financially very stable, and they just go out there and work hard. And every now and then they take turns winning tournaments. It's pretty cool.
Mhm. It is. It is. I mean, Jordan Spieth's still playing really well. He's not even in the top 20. So
Yeah,
just a lot of really good players right now. It's
yeah, I
exciting to
agree.
see. So evolution of the PGA Tour. In 1916, the PGA of America was founded, initially encompassing all types of golf, professionals, including club professionals. In 1968, that really wasn't that long ago, there was growing tensions between club professionals and touring professionals over finances and control. And that led to players like Jack Nicklaus and Gardner Dickinson to form the American Professional Golfers, Inc., or the APG, which then led to the creation of the PGA Tournament Players Division. It's really interesting. Jack Nicklaus not only is one of the greatest ever, maybe the greatest ever, but was kind of part of the formation of the PGA. Really
Mm.
interesting history there. Then in 75, the PGA Tournament Players Division was rebranded as the PGA Tour. So that name that we know didn't happen until, after you and I were both born,
Mm-hmm.
when it was renamed. See a lot of big brands we deal with today. PGA Tour, of course, Ryder Cup, just played every 2 years between Europe and the United States. The President's Cup, which is also played between those two, but played in the alternate year between the Ryder Cups. And then you have the new league that was formed between the Saudis, who actually funded it from Saudi Arabia. And then, they chose to essentially peel off about 30 or 40 of the biggest golfers in the PGA Tour and pay them huge, huge money to come join this new, Live Golf League. So, what are your thoughts about that? Is that something, they've talked about maybe merging the two leagues so you get back to having all the best players in tournaments again, where you don't have this segmented situation?
I think it's an evolution. Competition's usually a good thing. I think when leagues push each other, they tend to have a little bit of a better product and something that's more viable. So I don't know. I think we'll see where this all goes. I think Live and PGA are starting to learn how to live with each other, so to speak, and coordinate a little bit.
I did notice that the PGA used to shut out the Live golfers, but they're allowing them in now into at
Yeah.
least the majors to play. So you're getting the
Mm.
guys like DeChambeau, who's a Live golfer, now
Yeah.
being able to play at least the majors, which is good.
Yeah, they're forming more of a like the NFL was formed out of the AFL and NFL.
What's
Um,
interesting is Congress is usually looking to break up monopolies, but apparently
yeah,
Congress very much wants these two to merge, because I know everybody's who's golf fans, they really want to see the best players out there every week.
yeah,
So
yeah. They
we'll
don't
see
want to
what,
see it divided, and all the best players are cut in half,
right.
and one group over here, one group over there. Nobody wants that.
Because you have the Byron Nelson Classic, which is a really great tournament, but it's not a major. Well, it only has the PGA guys, so you don't have, half of the top 20 in there. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. Popularity of golf in the USA. This is 2024 end of the year data. A record 47.2 million Americans played golf in some form, on course or off course. And that was a 5% increase from the previous year and a 38% increase since 2019. So that really surprised
That's
me
a
that we're
lot.
still having that much growth in the game. It's quite a bit.
Well, 2019 is when Tiger won again, so it's almost like he got a little resurgence,
That's possible. Yeah.
you know?
On-course participation reached 28 million, the highest since 2008. So you had a little bit of a dip in like 2008 to 2012, a little bit of a dip, and then a 16% increase ever since. Off-course participation. Now, this was interesting. 2/3 of new golfers started with off-course experiences like Topgolf before playing on a traditional course. So does that surprise you at all?
Not really. I think Topgolf was a very brilliant concept. It's a very social game, so why not put together a bar and a restaurant and a golf
And
experience?
things to shoot for, you've got targets.
Targets, yeah. So it's like
Mhm.
adds a little bit of a sporting element of
Mhm.
target sports, kind of. Yeah, it's pretty
Mhm.
cool concept. So yeah, I'm not surprised that it dramatically improved, bringing new people in.
But you had the same surprise I did, right? That the game has grown this much since 2019. I mean, it's still a growing sport.
Yeah, it's a little surprising because you think of NASCAR and golf kind of taking steps back over the last 10 years, and truly, golf really hasn't. It sort of
Mhm.
seems like it has, but it hasn't.
Mhm. That's
Whereas
right.
NASCAR really has.
Mhm. It's true. This whole off-course experience, Topgolf thing, really, I think, has kept the sport growing. It's really helped feed the real
But
sport.
so has putt golf, stuff like that.
But yeah,
Yeah,
those types of experiences, right?
anybody can play putt golf. So
So looking at golf around the world, this was interesting. It's now reached 138 million per year globally, which is pretty cool to think about the sport is that large. Over 1/3 of the US population over the age of 5 played either golf on or off course. 1/3. So that was pretty surprising. A total combined adult and junior participation in affiliated markets reached 108 million in 2024. And what that means is everything outside the US. So some of the things I wanted to mention here in terms of numbers of fans. This isn't participation. This is fans. Soccer, of course, number one, 3.5 billion. Cricket, number two. You mentioned this about how huge cricket is, especially in India. 2.5 billion fans. Basketball, 2.4. Tennis, 1.5. Field hockey, American football, baseball, and then golf. So any thoughts about that, where golf stands in the total popularity?
I mean, it's a major one. It's not the very top, but it's got a wide appeal. I think they've come a long way on television presentation, which has helped them a lot. They've done a really good job of trying to prolong the influence Tiger Woods has had because he was the next great thing and just sort of he was lightning in a bottle. And when he kind of dipped, the sport dipped. And when he came back up, they were able to capitalize on it. So that's
I
cool.
think Tiger Wolf, the majors really help. When you have those majors like the British Open, US Open, Masters, those really help. And then what do you think about Olympic golf? I mean, Olympic golf's gotten pretty popular. Has that helped spur global
I
interest?
think so. Yeah, I think so. In fact, they were talking to. I was reading. I might have to dig in to figure out which player it was, but one of the players that I was reading was talking about how Olympic golf was just different than every other type of golf he had played. He said it's not a major, but it's special in its own way. It can't be compared to anything else.
Mhm. That's true.
And for me, as a non-major golfer, that was interesting.
It is.
he said it was one of the most special moments of his life was winning the gold. So,
Yeah, it was fun to watch Schefter win it.
yeah.
So some of
Yeah,
the
well,
major tournaments we were just talking about, Masters, in my opinion, is the Mac Daddy of them all. That's the Super Bowl, is the
yeah.
Masters. I don't know why that tournament is so special. It just is. It's in Augusta. It leads off the year in April, kind of kicks off the overall major golf season.
It's got the
And
most mystique.
it does. There's just something about everybody wants to win the Masters if you're a pro. There's no question. The PGA this year was in Quail Hollow here in Charlotte. That was really cool to see that go down like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really great tournament too. U.S. Open was in Oakmont. So U.S. Open, of course, is a huge tournament. The Open, the British Open, is actually going on this week. So if you guys
Mm-hmm.
want to watch some great golf this weekend, watch the British Open. It'll be a really great tournament. Canadian Open is another big one every year. Australian Open. I mentioned the Byron Nelson. A lot of people consider that as kind of a semi-major. It's not a major, but it's a really big tournament. Everybody wants to win. Then you got the American Century Championship this year, which is a big one in California. And then the Cognizant Classic, which is down in Palm Beach. And then, of course, the big development in the last 10 years in the PGA is the development of the FedEx Cup. And to get
Mm-hmm.
FedEx Cup points, you have to actually play on a PGA event. And that's one of the complaints of the live golfers is that they'll never win the FedEx Cup because they can't play in enough events, which is why a lot of people think they should merge. FedEx Cup points also play into the fact that whether you're going to get on the Ryder Cup team or not for the U.S. is how many FedEx points you get every year. So, general thoughts about these major tournaments, about the FedEx?
I mean, just so much great competitive golf, so many opportunities to let these young guys come up and challenge the veterans. And it's cool to see the veterans figure out a way to sneak back up there and be on the leaderboard on Sunday, A lot of good tournaments.
It is. And to me, if you're the casual fan and you like golf on TV, but you don't like it every weekend, these are the tournaments you're going to be watching. I mean, these are the tournaments that get the big ratings. These are the tournaments that you see it in every cafe and every sports bar. Everyone's watching it. You know what I mean? Like all
Yeah,
over the world. Like we could be in Norway, they'd be watching it,
sure.
Of these majors. These are the big ones. So, so really exciting. And I'm excited actually to watch the British Open this weekend. See how
British, the open, that's what they
the
call it.
Open. Yeah. This year, you see where it is. It's in
They don't
Portrush.
put the word British in there.
That's right. That's right. Well, I mean, they look at it like golf was established over there, which it was. So.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at some highlights from classic golf from the years, and then we'll come back and talk about it on the other side. All right, Robbie. Well, final thoughts, man, on the game of golf, the history of it, the popularity of it, the rules of it, where you think it's developing, the equipment, the athletes.
Just such a cool game. One of the most excruciating mental games there is, but also there's nothing more powerful than hitting a great shot and just wanting to keep coming back and
It
doing it.
keeps
So
you coming back as that one shot. It does.
yeah, that one shot was you impressed yourself and you
But
did exactly what you wanted to do.
you never can master it. I mean, even these guys, I watch these guys who are pros and they'll hit an unbelievable shot and then they'll hit it in the water. And you're just like,
Yeah. Well, if you ever go see a live tournament, it's absolutely amazing to watch because I'll never forget. I used to go down in Palm Beach and watch the PGA National, and they would line up the fans along the tee box straight out for a while. And these guys would tee up and hit it straight down the middle. And it was so nerve wracking because a little duff, and they were going to whack it straight into these people at point blank range. And I remember thinking, I'll never be able to do that. One thing that I am now at a point in my life at is I love watching people do things I can't do.
Mhm.
Hitting a fastball, throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastball, dunking, right? Doing all kinds of things on ice,
Throwing a
on
football
a
70
hockey
yards.
rink, throwing
Yeah.
a football 70 yards. I don't want to sit there and watch people do things that I can do.
Mhm.
But when I'm watching live, they're driving this ball straight down this gallery of people, and they never miss. It's absolutely unbelievable. And I
It
remember
really
thinking,
amazes me. It amazes me. You know what amazes me almost more though is their second shots. Just astound me. I mean,
oh, there's
they
so many
they
pieces to it.
they'll be like, he's 175 yards out. He's using a 9-iron. I'm like, well, a 9-iron. And then not only will he use the 9-iron, but he'll shape it. They'll be like, he's going to fade it or he's going to push it, or like
Yeah.
they know how to manipulate it where they can fade it so that it curves in perfectly right towards the hole and they drop it in 10 feet away.
Yeah.
It's astounding how
And when
good
they
they
do
are.
that, you're sitting here at home saying, I can't do that. Like,
There's
I
no
don't
way.
know how to do that. I might do it by accident. I might draw it by accident, but it's not going to be something that
And then
I
they're
can
like,
do
he's going to try to fade it. And they do it. Then they fade it.
I know.
It's like,
I know.
wow. Yeah. Yeah. It's really, really fun to watch the really great
So,
athletes play.
so that's my overall thoughts is I'm now drawn toward, as I've gotten older, just specifically things that I cannot do.
Yeah.
Whether it's running the 40-yard dash in a subhuman time, whether, anything that's so beyond what I could even imagine doing. And golf is one of those things. These guys driving the ball way over 300 yards straight, right, landing it right in front of the water so they can chip over it and do all this. It's amazing. It's
You know,
amazing. Golf is an incredible sport.
they talk about golf being one of those games that the mental part of the game is more important than almost any other sport,
Yeah.
and it's true. But how much do you think is physical? Because you and I couldn't hit at 345. I don't care how much we try. We could be the mentally strongest people, but how much do you
I
think
I
is
think it's
physical? How
I
much
think
is
it's
mental?
mostly mental because first of all, just the driving tee box thing I described, it's so unnerving. Hitting the ball down with a few feet on each side of clearance, and that's going to set up your entire hole. And then
But
your
how
next
about
shot, of course, it's all mental. And if you have any misfire, you have to let it go and start over and reset yourself. And it's
but
very
how about if
mental.
you're Phil Mickelson who's lined up for an 18-foot putt for his first green jacket, and if he
Yeah,
misses, he's going to go into the playoff. He sits there and measures it, and he hits it. Like the average person can't do that under that pressure. You've got
that's right.
what 300 million people watching.
We would all miss that 100% of the time.
Yeah,
You know,
and he just nails it. So you're right. I think the mental is a bigger part of it, but I
it's
also
much
think
bigger.
physical is a big part of it too. Like you and I
Golf
would
is
never
so
be in,
mentally challenging.
we would never be in as good shape enough. Didn't matter what we did to be Tiger Woods or Scotty Scheffler or the way these guys can hit it.
The variance physically is there for sure. We're not in the kind of shape that Tiger Woods in his prime was, no question. That guy was a specimen, but the mental strength they have is so much more dramatic than what we have, where we'll duff it and I want to break the club over my leg and thinking, I play twice a year. Why can't I hit this perfectly? Like it's just, it's different. It's just such a different game mentally for them.
True.
When
Very
you're
true.
them and you've done it 3,000 times and you miss your shot, you're very disappointed, but you know that you needed to work even harder.
I have to say, I love all aspects of the sport. It's incredibly maddening. It's incredibly humbling. If you want to be humbled, go out and play 18 holes with your friends. You're going to be humbled.
Exactly.
You'll be humbled many times that day. But I love the game of golf. I love Top Golf. I love putt putt.
Yep.
I love just going to the driving range with my brother.
That's
Uh,
right.
I love all aspects of it. I love going
Me
and
too.
hitting balls at like a Dick's Sporting Goods or Academy Sports.
Me too. And there's very few things in all of sport that feel better than going into the clubhouse, having a cold beer, and talking about the one shot that you were really proud of all day long.
That got you the birdie.
The most amazing shot that you made all day. Hopefully you got one or two great shots. And I never follow them up with a great shot. Like if I have an amazing drive, my chipping onto the green is going to take, too many shots to do. I rarely follow up an amazing one, but I sit there and I talk about it in the clubhouse.
And then you want to come back because you want to get that
and it
shot
makes me
again.
want to come back. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I block out all the times I lost the ball in the water.
That's right. Well, guys, drop us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us some of your stories of golf, where you've played, how you've improved over the years, what type of golf you like to play, and we'd love to hear from you. And thank you guys so much for joining us tonight for this rundown memory lane of golf and the history, popularity, and rules of the game. And we're really looking forward to seeing you guys on another episode of the Sports Guyz.
Thanks for joining us. We had a great time, and we learned a lot researching this, and it was fun. And hopefully there's a lot of great tournaments this year that we can all check back in on. And
like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a great one.
Check out